Hello UAE, this is the TwoFatBroker podcast. I am Ben, the Fat Broker from Abu Dhabi.
Barnaby, the Fat Broker from Dubai.
You thought about saying Finn.
I don't want to. I really wanted to.
I don't want to be fat.
It's just not a comedy podcast.
Damn you, high protein diets.
And geez.
So anyway, today we're going to be talking about the future of real estate agents. This pandemic, we're in May 2020. This pandemic has called into question a lot of jobs. And there was a very interesting article in Arabian Business a couple of weeks ago called, I think it was called Broker, that quite a few brokers took offense at, one of those things. Where it talked about the future of real estate brokers and whether, I guess, we'd ever be needed again or whether we'd ever be needed in the same way again. What do you think, Barney? Is this going to change the way we do business?
I hope not. I've been doing this for 21 years. It would be a real shame for all of my expertise and hard work to go out the window. My short answer is no. I don't think you will ever not need a broker for a few reasons, but I'm going to focus predominantly on virtual tours. Until we get to a stage with VR where you can literally port yourself into a house in a VR scenario and walk around it, which I think we're not far off, but I still think you're going to need that human interaction. Right now with Matterport and these other tech products,
real tech
products, where you can get on your laptop or your desktop and actually walk through the house in a virtual sense, but without a VR headset. I don't think they are a good enough substitute to physically be there. And there's the age-old adage of within the first 30 seconds if you're going to buy a house or not. When you go into it, you don't get that vibe, that feeling from a VR headset.
But hold on, don't people buy real estate all the time without seeing it when we talk about off-plan?
Yes, but that's investment grade stuff.
But surely people buy off-plan to live in as well as to invest in.
Yes, they do, and that's a very small proportion of all real estate is end user off-plan.
You think so?
I think definitely.
Put a figure on it. So off-plan buyers.
Say that.
Off-plan buyers, what's your split end users to investment?
Well, I mean, sadly, off-plan, I missed that boat and it was never something. I'm more of a purist. I like to deal with people. But I would say you're probably looking at about 70-30 investment versus end user.
Total guess?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, me, total guess, I'd say similar, even less probably. In Abu Dhabi.
I would say it was an educated guess, not a total.
But it's exactly as you say. I think me personally, I'd feel uncomfortable buying a house for my family that I'd only seen pictures of. And because they do a bit of virtual reality now, not a lot for off-plan stuff. But
also you need to know the neighborhood.
You're looking at floor plans, yeah. You can't really see what your view is. You can't get a feel for the finishings.
And everybody knows photographer's license, and ultimately you're just looking at a series of photos that have been strung together. And photographers are, God bless them, very, very good at making rooms feel bigger, making things feel more spacious, and at the end of the day, if you're going to live somewhere, you're going to go there and have a drive around the area to see whether you like the area. If you're in the area, why not see the house? And then when you get to the stage where you want to negotiate, a lot of negotiations that I've been part of where buyer and sellers sit together, they fall apart because you have ego, whereas, and you have lines drawn in the sand by individuals who have perceived thresholds that they won't cross. And, from a broker's perspective, our job, our training teaches us how to let people understand the real value of what it is they're buying and selling and the things that matter and the things that are perceived to matter. If you see what I mean, when it comes to the negotiation aspect as well, you need an intermediary a lot of the time.
So we can almost talk about three separate things here. There is, will virtual viewings take over from brokers who are viewing? Could a buyer and seller negotiate a contract, that was good for both of them? And then the third one, which is escaping out of my brain hole here, is the viewings, the negotiation. Okay, so it's maybe just those two then. Because I mean, that's what a broker does, right? And I guess then, the paperwork and the conveyancing and all that kind of stuff as well.
But also there's the element of expertise when I deal with my clients is I go and meet them, I sit with them, I try and understand what it is that they want, and then I go to the market and I do that legwork for them. Now, obviously me specialising in high net worth properties, the guys I deal with don't have the time to go onto property websites and portals and things like that, and they don't have the time to sift through.
But they've got the time, but it's not worth their while. Their time is better spent doing something else.
Probably better, a better way.
And I think that's a very interesting thing that we have in the UAE that we don't have in say the West, is people have a lot more time here, and they don't value their time as much as people in
different conversations,
Europe and North America. Oh, so people rely on a broker to do the legwork for them to a certain extent, because they could do it themselves in theory. Probably not as well as a broker because they don't have that experience, but they could do it themselves, but their time's worth more to them.
I also think from the point you touched on, from an end user's perspective, you want to have that feel of something, but also I actually think there's a space in the market for investment grade stuff where literally you're looking at the numbers. Investment grade purchases are, I look at the numbers, I know the area vaguely, I know the view, and does it stack up for me? Or look, I can stick on a pair of VR headsets and I can actually have a look around it. Great. That helps my buying process. But a lot of people who buy studios and one beds, they don't need to go see it. They go, here's my buying number, here are my additional numbers, here is my output, here's my ROI, here's my return on equity. Bang, it's a good deal or it's not.
So if we encapsulate the bit where we're talking about physical viewings, you're going to say, if it's your family home, you're going to want to see it, right? A video tour or a 360 whatever, will help you get a feel of it, but you want to go and see it before you finish. So brokers will usually have a part in that. And if you're an investor, maybe that's going to be enough for you. I've seen the video, I'll buy it. Although, to us, investors still do that. So then if we say, okay, we agree on that, then what about that? If you can do that and cut it down, then why do you need the broker? Why don't you then just go to the property owner? You've narrowed it down to like your top three, then why don't you just, then have a connection to the owner? And there's websites that do this for you where the owners list their property.
Purple Bricks.
So you just call up the owner. I think Purple Bricks, they still use real estate agents. So I'm not sure about that.
They use estate agents.
So right. you call up the owner and you say, I've shortlisted your properties one-on-ones on. So can I come around and have a look? So then, will that bit of the broker, get
with
replaced?
The owner? So I'm a seller and I have to take photos of my property. Fine, I can get somebody to come along and do that for me. I've got to list it. Fine, I'll get someone to do that for me. I can potentially do it for myself.
There's websites that'll do that for you, I think.
Yeah. Do I then want to pay, because these portals won't be free, and I'm assuming the seller will be the person that pays to do the marketing. So they'll pay for the photographer, they'll pay for the write-up, they'll pay for the marketing, they'll probably pay on a monthly basis for a subscription. Sellers typically here don't want to pay anything, and they're fortunate enough to not have to really pay transfer fees because they paid them when they bought. They don't often pay agency fees depending on the agreement you have. I don't think sellers here are going to want to pay, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, let's say the buyer pays. So let's say there's a website that does all this, and it does all it for free, and then the buyer then signs up, and then if the buyer buys, they pay the website.
I feel like you and I might be doing a Q&A for somebody to set up a business here. So let's have that. Let's have this conversation between the two of us.
Those unequivocally exist, and I got sent a couple of them recently. And so what we're saying here is, so let's say sometimes people want to do the viewings. You could set up those viewings with the owner. Would the owner then see the value in doing that? And if anyone has ever listed a car or anything for sale on Dubizzle, would they want to deal with the number of pillocks and dipsticks calling up, wanting to come and look at their house?
What is your last price?
With no, you've listed it for 10 million, you take 4? Yeah. Would they want to deal with that? Or are they paying someone, because I actually did pay someone to sell my car for me because I couldn't handle that rubbish.
That didn't go very
well. To actually, perform a screening process.
Yeah, I mean, it's horses for courses. I mean, I think going back to to the VR route, the Matterport, these virtual property constructs that you can walk around, I think from a buyer's perspective, it would actually be really good in terms of narrowing down what you want to see, and you go, okay, fine, I've been in that one, I didn't really like the feel, but I'll go and have a look at it just to be sure, or I've seen it on VR, I definitely want to come and have a look at it. So maybe from a broker's perspective, it would just mean we have less zero return viewings.
Yeah, no, I think, and what we're doing currently is we're, as part of the coronavirus adaptation, is taking videos of every unit we go and see, so we can send these to our clients, and we share those videos so that we got that
Welcome
stock.
to
So
the
our
21st
clients,
century, Ben.
our clients can narrow it down. Well, we've taken pictures in the past, but never videos. So now we're trying to do that video. Well, ours is a little bit different to yours because you've only got, let's say 20 or 30 listings. We've got 800 or 900. Because we do a lot of leasing.
Okay.
Yes, far more than I want, but
data.
But there you go. Well, I mean, even in one building, if you take Etihad Towers as a great example, there's 800 units in that building, and they're all different because it's a curved building. So your video for one is not going to be the same as your video for another. Gate Towers goes like that. It's all different.
Like a reverse Weeble.
Yeah.
Look, I think there's a space for it. I definitely do, and I think anybody who tells you there's no room for it in this market is kidding.
Well, so we're still got to break it down. So viewings we've done, we've spoken about that. What about the negotiation? What does a broker bring to the table in terms of negotiation that an owner couldn't do with a buyer and a seller?
I think there is a degree of trust and a degree of being able to open up to a broker who can manage a transaction, knowing the full scope of information within it, buyer's motivations, seller's motivations, that a buyer and seller wouldn't necessarily sit across from each other and divulge. So I think to have an intermediary in a transaction, we're able to understand people's drivers far better than they would be able to having built a relationship with them, far better than a buyer and seller would be able to commute over a conversation in a coffee shop somewhere. So I think you would probably find the ratio of transactions agreed with both happy buyer and happy seller are higher than if there's a broker in the middle.
Yeah, and I also think, have you ever had this, introduce the buyer and the seller and they've hated each other?
Yes.
And I
had that when I bought my own house.
Oh, and we had that recently, and I physically had to separate them because they were arguing so badly.
You closed it.
And we still closed the transaction, but I've never spoken to two people so much in my whole life to try and calm them down, because buying and selling is an incredibly emotional. People think they're very rational, but they're very emotional. It's an incredible emotional process, and what you want is someone who's hopefully cold-eyed and steely-hearted in the middle to take the emotions out of it.
That's you, that is.
And do a deal. Yes.
Cold-hearted and
steely-eyed. Other people have emotions. I just pretend to have them.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that any negotiation is great with an intermediary. And I think you're right. And as I said to you before, it's good for somebody to be able to. People are hugely emotionally attached to their houses, and most of the time, the number doesn't really even come into it. It's the feel of. Actually, that's probably not true. The number does come into it, but it's being able to get them past their emotional attachment to the house and actually view the number, because you're selling not just bricks and mortar. You're selling history. You're selling experiences. You're selling life moments that people have had in that house.
Yeah.
Memories,
emotions,
and likewise, you're selling people's or you're buying people's aspirations and dreams from the buyer's perspective. I'm emotionally invested in this house now. I want to buy it. I've emotionally moved in, and it's imperative to have somebody who, as you can say, can separate fact from fiction in a negotiation.
Yeah, and some interesting psychological points. People value loss twice as much as they value gain. So they have more of an emotional reaction to losing 5 dirhams than gaining 5 dirhams. So, if you gain 10 dirhams, you have the same emotional reaction as if you lose 5. People hate losing. So when you're selling in a falling market, when someone is selling something and they're getting less than what they paid for it, that is incredibly difficult for them to overcome.
Yeah.
Particularly if it's a family home and they've got memories, and and I guess you need someone to professionally guide them through that.
So what we're saying
talking
is
about how great brokers are. We're like
we are
psychologists,
intrinsically linked
mathematicians,
to
all rolled into one. Yeah.
So look, I think our role will be downplayed a little in terms of physically going out and seeing, doing viewings, but I think our role is fairly secure for now.
Yeah, maybe add more value in the negotiation phase. Obviously, in Abu Dhabi, also you need a broker to conveyance. In Dubai, I know that's not true. There's conveyancing companies as well, but you need brokers to do all the paperwork and things like that in Abu Dhabi. I mean, you can do it yourself, but again, it's time consuming. And if you don't know how it's done, you can mess it up. Signing MOUs. You guys still have MOUs in Dubai, or
we do Form Fs.
Form Fs. So we don't have those in Abu Dhabi. We've got a physical MOU. So if you're doing a purchase in Abu Dhabi, you're going to make sure that your MOU, makes sense, is watertight, and you're not going to lose your deposit.
Who's going to deal with whose bank? Who's going to hold the title deed in Dubai? If you buy something with a mortgage, when the buyer clears the seller's mortgage, you then put a block on it, which means that the property can't be transferred to anybody else. In Abu Dhabi, I know that's not the case, is that if a buyer clears the seller's mortgage, the title deed then just becomes available, and you need the broker to hang on to it because until the transaction's finished.
I have a title deed in my safe right now. Yeah. And about 4 deposit checks. So, we also serve that kind of function in Abu Dhabi at least. So maybe our role will change. Hopefully it'll get easier on the terms of the viewings and things like that. It's time consuming bit, but hopefully we still provide a valuable service to people.
If you don't feel like your agent is providing value, you're dealing with the wrong agent. Anyway.
Call us. Yeah, do it. All right. Well, thank you very much. We've been 2 Fat Brokers.
Very fat.
Yes, we're still fat. One day this will be 2 Thin Brokers, but doesn't look like for
I'm
the
looking forward to
foreseeable
meeting them as
future.
well.
We are children. But anyway, thank you very much for watching or listening to this, and hopefully you'll join us on our next podcast.
Be well.
Take care.